All right, welcome everybody as you now join our webinar. This is actually exciting. We don't always get the opportunity to spend time with fellow advisors, the four of us being some of us more recovering than others, financial professionals in the space who love what we all do. So thanks for taking the time. We have a great number of people that have actually signed up today. So if you're just popping in, we're going to take a couple minutes and doing some quick introductions. Our plan is to go for the hour. So if you don't have it blocked out, just pay attention because we're going to move fast. This program is also being recorded. Okay. Well, let me do first. Mike, would you introduce yourselves and tell us your history?
Yeah. So I'm Michael Lecours. I'm a co-founder and financial advisor of fpPathfinder, where we make checklists and flowcharts to help advisors have more diligent conversations with their clients.
Awesome.
And, and so I'm excited for this panel. I'll tell you that, Adam. We did this prep call last week with Jason and Don, and at one point I just put my pen down. I just wanted to hear everything that they had to say. Like it's just terrific stuff over here.
It's a great point. We probably should have recorded that and just sent it to everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, this will be great. So hopefully we've got a polished conversation. My name is Adam Holt. I'm also I say a recovering financial planner because I've spent almost all my time now on Asset-Map. 25 years in the business. As you probably already figured out, we're really trying to chisel out this category called advice engagement, really where most of the rubber hits the road for all of us, where we actually deliver the value to the clients. That means giving them guidance, things that they want to know, how they're doing, how can we help them make better decisions. So hopefully what you take away from today is actionable steps that you could implement in your practice or really just ogle over, because what these two guys are doing is really awesome. So let's introduce our guests, Don, Hilario, and Jason. Jason, would you give us your background?
Yeah, quick background. My name is Jason Hamilton. I'm the founder of Keep It Simple Financial Planning. I started my RIA as a career changer just over 7 years ago. We had our 7-year anniversary in February, which was really cool. And I had to kind of learn this whole game on my own. And so a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about today is stuff I learned outside anybody in the industry. But the industry tools like you two guys provide are so great that I just basically take what you guys do and implement it. And so I'm excited to talk about that today.
Very cool. Actually, you have a fantastic backstory, which we heard. And I really just, can you touch briefly on how you started trying different things in the business and really reinvented it?
Yeah. So quick version of the long story. Back in 2008, my family went through a very challenging financial time. They had someone with the title financial advisor, but it was really one of those beautiful insurance agents that set them up with 4 whole life insurance policies and had them putting $50 in a bond fund in a Roth IRA. That was their financial plan. And so they were putting about $1,300 a month in for over 10 years, maybe 13, 14 years. And when 2008 came, their cash value was about $60,000+. That's all that was there out of all the money they had. Back testing that should have been $300,000 to $500,000. It really could have helped us get through that 2008 challenging time. And they were in their 50s at that time. And so I said, you know what, I do not want to be here in my 50s, and I'm going to figure out how this financial game works, how the money game works. And so it started with a search on Google that just said, how do people get wealthy? And then that led to my best friend, the Huntington Beach Library for the next year, read about 100+ books in personal finance, somehow stumbled across a board that talked about the CFP program. So I looked up what that was because I'd never heard of it and found out there's a program where you can do this to help people. And so I took the first class, fell in love with it, said, you know what, I want to change careers. And when I tried to get into industry, guess what I found? Either sell whole life insurance or work as maybe an entry level somewhere. And at that point, it was like $45,000 per year. On average, I live in Orange County. I was making like 80 or 90,000. And I looked at all the numbers and I had saved some money at that point, paid off all my debt. And I said, maybe I can do this thing on my own. So partnered up with XY Planning for all the launch, hired some consultants to learn how to run the business, do the compliance. First 2 years, I basically made like almost nothing because I didn't know how to do anything. And then I paid a lot of money for an online marketing course, about $9,000 or $10,000. And it took me about 4 to 5 months to figure it out. And then month 6, everything just went crazy. And I had no systems, no processes, and kind of broke everything. And then since then, I was doing paid advertising at that time. I started doing organic, and my organic was taking off so well that I do a little paid here or there, but I haven't really had to do that the last 5 years. And where it's at now is I'm basically going to do what I show you guys today and I never have to worry about clients. I just kind of make some posts, I have some things set up, and I have my systems in place to generate those. And I'm happy to share everything that I've learned so far. And these tools that you two have really helped me be a better advisor. So I can generate the clients. I'm good at that part, but really being a great advisor and delivering a great experience, I really leverage the tools that we're going to talk about today to do that. So
very cool. Thank you, Jason. All right, Don, what's your backstory?
Jason, it's a tough act to follow, man. I always love hearing your story. My story, I've been in the game for 15 years. I've been using asset maps and fpPathfinder, I think, since 2019. Prior to that, I was a big believer in the one-page plan, but admittedly, my one-page plans were long-winded Word documents looking like Latin when I try to refamiliarize myself for the next review. I had custom spreadsheets. And then when I found out about asset maps and fpPathfinder, I made the commitment to decide who are the types of people I want to work with. For me, those two platforms are what I consider my core tech stacks. I mean, my business cannot run without them. So I'm very thankful for Adam and Michael to spearhead this advice on engagement movement. Numbers wise, so I built my book. I have my own RA going on a little bit over a decade here. But since 2019, when I got really clear about my niche, I work with big tech, I can speak on that later. And I decided to just start every meeting, whether it was a new inquiry or existing client, with just having the asset map in place, along with the wonderful questions and flowcharts from fpPathfinder. I got really confident in my systems and processes, and I attended boot camps and whatnot. And the short of it is, I generated, I think, like, I think it was like 100,000 in new revenue within like 4 or 5 months. And then I kept repeating the process and refined that. And then more importantly, I'm just really comfortable with the client needs, and I use both asset map and fpPathfinder to accelerate that process.
Cool. All right, great. Any other comments, anybody, before we jump right in here? All right, very cool. And for those of you that do have questions, I think we have a Q&A panel. We will be getting to Q&A by the end, so we probably will hold them and just review them unless they're really relevant. There's 2 things that came up in our pre-conversation about trying to find ways to help advisors engage and, of course, use these technologies. Of course, come up with other technologies that we haven't kind of provided and how they all work together. The 2 really were marketing, and then how do you create early advice engagement? How do we onboard clients, get them indoctrinated into what we're doing? How are you guys actually using these tools in the real world, not in our theoretical space? So let's take about 15 minutes. Let's for each of us about 7 minutes. And Jason, if you can start us off on helping us understand how you're marketing using these tools to engage around advice.
absolutely. So we do a little share here. Let's see.
Right, I see your screen.
Just
Perfect.
coming through okay?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
I know, Adam, you said don't make it visual, but I said, you know what, let me just make it visual because it'll really
I
help
said don't
people
make it
understand. I like visuals because it helps people understand where I'm going to take them, because it's kind of a lot. And I want to make it simple. It really is simple. And once you get it set up, it's not that complicated, but it may be overwhelming for the first time if somebody's never done anything like this. So what I want to talk about today is how I'm using these tools through organic marketing. Okay, if you never heard the term funnel, all the funnel is a process you're going to lead maybe a prospect through before they get to meet you, essentially. And there's all kinds of different ways to do it, but I'm going to show you a few that I use. And these are basically automated once you do the initial portion of it. So starting here at the top, and I'll see if I can draw on this. Good. Okay, so starting here at the top, we have what's called the top of the funnel. And this is the way that I'm creating awareness to have potential clients find what I'm doing. My main marketing channel is my Facebook group. I've had a Facebook group since 2017, and I do webinars in the Facebook group. I also use a Facebook page for a business, and I also use my personal page. So that's a whole nother conversation on how to leverage those 3 tools, but I'm going to focus on these today. So through this Facebook group funnel, there are some really key things that I do. Do you want me to do the demo of kind of what I'm doing now, or you want to save that for later?
I say we see it right now.
Just
Okay.
do it, man.
Yeah, I'm hooked.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So we'll talk about all three because I have it all set up here. So I'm going to talk about these three funnels. So Facebook group funnel, my website funnel, and then social media posts. I'm not going to show that because that's pretty self-explanatory. So let me go over to what this looks like here. All right. Coming through good?
Yep. Got it.
Okay. So when someone requests to join my group, they're going to have to answer, or they have the option to answer. Okay. I don't require it, but they have the option to answer 3 questions. Number one question is, what's your number one question about planning for retirement? Because this group is a retirement planning group. And then you promise to follow the group rules. And there's another section when you log in, you can see what those are, not from here. And then the third one is enter your email to receive your free 2023 key retirement and financial numbers brochure. And this is an option for them to do that. And this is where I leverage fpPathfinder. So one of my favorite things to use is the key numbers worksheet. And so that's the one where it has all the, let's actually go back over to our share because I have that on the other side here. This one here is very, very important for multiple reasons. So this is, it's called the 2023 important numbers inside of fpPathfinder. And this is I paid for the upgraded subscription. So I got all the branded with my logo on it. And then it does have my firm information down here so where they can reach us, you know, so this is an instant piece where they're going to have my information. But this is some good information that I can use to engage with the clients in multiple ways. This is why I use this one, because first on top left here, we have tax brackets. The number one question by far, I've done a bunch of surveys. Everybody wants to know about taxes. So I use this for multiple other trainings, which we'll talk about in a second, but this is what they will get when they give me their email and download that along with other information. So that's the start where I start with the engagement portion. Okay. And then also within the group, I have other fpPathfinder tools in a file section. So I use this group as a home base to provide a ton of value, but then also, you know, kind of show expertise. And so I have ones in here like, hey, should I take my pension as a lump sum? This is a 2023 one. There's a bunch in here. There's all kinds of ones organized in here. So a lot of these are directly from fpPathfinder. And the reason why I want to emphasize that is because I don't go around, and I do create unique stuff. I really do. But for the people listening, you don't have to start there. You can just start by using these tools today because these are super good tools and just learn how to use them in an engaging way. So I have a bunch of stuff in the file section here. And then I also have in my about section a link.
Oh, Jason, I'm seeing, we're still seeing important numbers up here.
Let me go back. I'm in the Zoom, messing up the Zoom. Okay, so we have questions here.
Yeah.
We're back. Okay. And then I have the file section of my group here, excuse me. So here you can see the should I take my pension as a lump sum 2023. That was one someone talked about recently. And there was a question in the group and I engaged the question and I said, hey, here's a resource to help you with your decision. If you'd like to speak further about that, then I put the link to my calendar if they want some specific help. And it's a very like non-intimidating way for clients to potentially engage with me and me to provide value at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I will address specific things in their question that might relate back to this particular flow chart, but I don't give away all the answers. Okay. And that's just being fully transparent. Mm-hmm. Because then what happens sometimes is people try to do things on their own or they won't take action. So I believe they need the advice of an advisor, but I'm going to get them some tools to start with and a couple tips. And then from there, I have my about section in the group where if they didn't get the email on the way in and they just skip that part, which they can, well, now I have a link to my calendar page. And then also this is a download page here where they can now come get their key financial numbers here. The reason why this is important is because I host about weekly webinars and I'll say, hey guys, hey folks, we're going to do a webinar on tax planning. Your key financial numbers is going to be super crucial. I really like to have this, have you have this in front of you because I'm going to use this so that you can use it to actually look at your situation. So go to the about section and download it, or I'll just put this link, on that particular post. So then I'm getting people into this funnel, all these different ways that way. And then I also have it on my website right here. Okay. So each of these, this is going to be all the same worksheet. So this is how I'm getting them into the indoctrination of like what I'm doing and the advice engagement, because all my webinars are going to touch on the different tools that we're using. But I really like to start the key numbers because there's so many things I can do with that, whether it's Social Security, RMDs, and other areas. And then the other thing I have from here is a link to book a call. And so if they want to click here, they can do that. And that'll lead them to a very specific page here where I tell them to book a call, it's complimentary. And then I tell them they're going to be taken to a short questionnaire. So guess what? I linked to that short questionnaire after they book a call. Asset Map Discovery. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's how I'm linking these tools together there to lead to the call. So kind of going back to our funnel. So we had our Facebook group or website. Now we have our fpPathfinder download, and now we're leading to a calendar page. And the calendar page is going to domain forward. So it's going to forward, once they fill out an appointment, directly to the Asset Map Discovery tool. Asset Map has its own domain forwarding. I've tested both. For me, it just works better. As long as I get the appointment, I can always get the Asset Map. But if I get the Asset Map, I can't always get the appointment. That's how I think about it personally, but both ways are good and are useful. And then that's going to lead to the discovery call and hopefully to a client. Along with that, I'm going to use a tool called Zapier, which is going to zap over their emails to my CRM, the email list. Then they're going to get on an email sequence here, and that email sequence will lead back to the calendar page and possibly an Asset Map, other webinars we're doing, other group things we're doing. And I'm constantly bringing them through this whole funnel, back to the group, back to the email list, back to the tools, to just somehow re-engage them to eventually book a call with me. And I've booked over 1,000 calls from this group alone. I've done over 300 financial plans that were paid. I charge up front for my financial plans. And so all through this, and Asset Map's a newer tool, I've been doing that since the beginning, but Asset Map has been the most efficient tool. So I'll pause there for any questions, and then I can show how I use them later, I think, in our next section.
Yeah, it's very cool. That's insane, by the way.
Yeah.
Not because it makes a perfect sense. And it's taken me years also, Jason, to understand how this digital marketing funnel works. For those advisors that are out there seeing this for the first time and they're like blown away, it's true. This is really the future of marketing, right? Is pulling people into your ecosystem where you're continuously able to drip on them, because they may not buy or get the hook at the first moment. They may need an episodic pain, like, oh, I'm about to retire. And then they remember all the amazing stuff Jason's provided over the years because he's built credibility in a way almost like people know him. So any other comments from the crew on that so far?
Just awesome. Really cool, Jason.
Yeah. It's a cool example of providing value, and it's like Jason's got. I mean, just to tie a bow here, he built a community on Facebook that's like thousands of people, and from that, there will be many that will never want to actually hire him, but just by the numbers, it's a terrific marketing tool, because if you're getting a couple hundred leads each year, it's translating into business right there. And it's just super impressive to see.
Yeah, I'll say it's a couple hundred leads probably every week or two. That's really what's coming in. All organic, not paid.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Wow.
Right. But then you have quality of lead question, right? I mean, because then, you're probably getting across the board all kinds of clients. Is there I'm curious, just how do you then choose whom to work with and or delegate if you can, or bring in the A team if you need it, if it's a massive case?
Okay, so let me show you a couple of things here.
I don't want to steal your next part, but.
Well, I'll just show you a little bit here. So as we collect those questions through that initial, these questionnaires when they come in, right? We collect these questions, and then those get sent over to a Google Sheet. And now I can see like what their number one question, I say specifically for retirement, what's your number one question for retirement? When would be the right time? How to budget? When's the best time to collect Social Security? So I go through here because I'll get like 5 to 15, 20 a day, nothing too crazy. And I can't even keep up with this, by the way. I have way more than I can actually handle. But anytime I need business, I'll just go in and I'll look in here and I'll find the name in the group and I'll send them a message. Hey, you sent this question in, or if I get their email, I'll shoot them an email, say, hey, here's a little checklist or worksheet that might help you out. I saw your question in the group. If you have any further questions, let me know. And I'll just engage somehow with them to touch base on that. 'Cause I don't want to show all the information, but I have the name, I have, when they came in, all that type of stuff on here. I'm just, zoning it in on that. So it helps me narrow down. But the way I really do it, Adam, is when I do workshops, I do them on very specific questions my ideal clients would have. And I know these are the questions that they answer. So after doing this for so many years, I know what they're asking. So I just do them on those questions. And then when people book calls, those are my ideal clients, because someone with, and just to be gentle here, someone with 50,000 in retirement assets is not going to really be concerned about taxes, having big RMDs and Roth conversions where, protecting their money for the future of the wealth transfer. That's not generally going to be the concern. And so I've built this highly curated community that we go through each profile before we let anybody in to make sure that they aren't crazy, first of all, and that they aren't spam. And ideally they look, they would be somebody who could be a good client.
It's amazing.
It's pretty amazing. Don.
There's no way I'm going to follow up with this now.
All right. So dude, you know what? Talk about something completely different.
Sorry, Jason.
I don't want to break my microphone, but I would drop that for you because I think you just, hopefully you encouraged and inspired a lot of people of what's possible. And now they're probably thinking, how am I actually going to execute that at any level that you're talking?
Yeah. That's all. That's a bunch of the questions that are coming in now.
Yeah, exactly.
What does this really look like?
But a couple hundred leads of a month or week, whatever you're saying, that's pretty insane. Congrats, man. Hats off to you. It's really unique.
Yeah,
sure.
Don, you take a different take. So help us understand how you're creating attractiveness for your more niche market.
Yeah, no problem. So what I do is I specifically work with big tech, so i.e. Googlers, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and so forth. And I got all this gems through attending the boot camps more than once through Asset-Map, having conversations with Mike over at fpPathfinder. And the let me see if I can recall this, the core habits or the keystone habits, right, that I implement every Tuesday. I review. It used to be 5, but I burn out now because I have all this best practices that I do. So I review no more than 3 asset maps, client maps, and I anticipate my reviews that I do twice a year. And in doing so, I'll find out themes that I know my clients will be curious about, i.e. the Secure 2.0 Act, mega Roth conversions. They're likely like me, like in their 40s, they have a mortgage, they have families and stuff. So I think about those themes and how to best express that so that my clients, and this is a big key word for me, so that my clients can experience the advice engagement. I'm really passionate about that movement because it's helped me streamline my business where I don't do marketing. I totally believe in what Jason does. I know it works, but for me, it's a pain point because I have a lifestyle practice, right? I have 2 daughters, right? Those are my, that's my priority. And I just maintain my business. And the funny thing is when I do these keystone habits, I end up generating, I think like 6 to 8 qualified niche clients per year. So to Jason's point, I'm not necessarily worried about growth. I'm just more concerned about helping my clients grow. So really coming from a service-oriented approach. I'm happy to share my my Stencil. I'm not sure if we have existing users on Asset-Maps or fpPathfinder, but what I'd like to do is literally show you how I service my main niche, because what I found through Asset-Maps is, here's what I know about my group, right? I know they're in big tech. I know that their average compensation, my clients are just north of, let's say, 400,000. And that includes RSUs, bonuses and wages. I also know that we're about to the age of 39 to 40, 70% are homeowners, 40% are married, blah, blah, blah. But the point is I'm able to really dial in on the common features of my clients and how to best service them using fpPathfinder as my outline.
Now you said that Jason shared that he's using fpPathfinder. And by the way, I think that's fantastic use of the checklist. And you see, you're really scaling it out there. I mean, ironically, Mike, you're basically probably thousands of people are seeing that checklist. So pretty kudos. Right. You're actually you're impacting that many people based upon Jason's work alone. Right. That's pretty cool. That being said, for the 2 of you, you are both, I think, sending discovery as a preamble or a precursor to first engagements with you to try to understand what's going on in their life. So whereas you're giving them some insight and value through the checklist from FP, as well as the explanations, you're also expecting something back. So how do you manage that? And can you do it consistently?
Is that for Jason?
I don't know. Well, I already know what Jason's done, but I'm curious, Don, if you've done something like that. Like, how do you actually do it? How do you actually make sure that every new person is going through a process?
So I have a whole referral process, and I have 2 asks. The first ask is, simply commit to completing the discovery questionnaire. And I'm very deliberate. So what I mean by that is I'll send them a Loom video. I'm a big fan of Loom, and I keep my recording 60 seconds or less. So I tend to talk fast. And the idea there is my one ask for this new inquiry is complete the discovery questionnaire. And I make it a point to say, because I understand my clients' needs, I say, hey, listen, you can take this on any smart device, i.e. iPhone, Samsung Galaxy tablet, you name it, because those are the platforms that my clients use. And I say 5 to 10 minutes, certainly take as long as you'd like. And that way, upon receipt, I'll be able to catalog all of their assets neatly organized. And we can talk about the more important stuff, the intangibles, i.e. how are you feeling, imposter syndrome, all that good stuff. And by the time they complete the discovery questionnaire, I'll follow up with another Loom video, again, 60 seconds or less, and then just going over everything. In fact, here, maybe it's a good segue to share my screen.
Cool.
Okay. And what I know, and it goes something like this. So let me know when you see it, right? This is my,
Yes.
and imagine, this is more robust because this is an existing client, right? It's Wonder Woman. And the idea here is after they fill out the discovery questionnaire, I'll send out literally a Loom video, and it'll be something like this. Hey, Wonder Woman, thank you so much for taking the time to take my discovery questionnaire. We will talk about this in greater detail, but in the meantime, please get acclimated. I'm gonna go round robin here, start here. So we know your cash flow, we're highly compensated. My question to you is, what are we doing for above the line deductions? Let's make sure that we're at least being proactive, reducing your reportable income. So I wanna know what your funding strategy is for your pre-tax account. Does it make sense to do a mega Roth? Because I know you're in big tech. Does the plan offer it? Regarding your non-qualified assets, we have here just north of 900,000. And so I'm curious to see if we're going to recalibrate your cash savings. Does that resonate with you? Does it cover 6 months expenses? Is it a magic number? You tell me. I see here we have a diversified brokerage along with company stock. My question for you is, what are the realized gains or realized losses? Does it make sense to consider that? Do we need to increase the exposure here for cash? We want to fund your favorite needs for college funding, things like that. I know I'm a fires of information, but I want to just at least familiarize yourself with you. I'm looking forward to speaking with you. Something like that. And then usually the response there is, holy cow, that made a lot of sense. I'm really looking forward to syncing with you. So then my second ask, and again, I haven't met them yet. It's all through video. So the idea is my second ask is, hey, great, I'm glad that my approach resonates with you. So if you'd like to continue, choose a date and time and our calendars will sync. So then by then, when I meet with them, it's already the third time, right? Because the first time I met them, it was just a brief intro video. The second one was a demonstration of what I do. The third time now is going to be a little bit more detail oriented. And that's where I use fpPathfinder. So for example, and then how's my pace?
Great. No, you're doing great.
I'm going to share my screen again, and then I'll show you how I incorporate something like fpPathfinder, or not something, actually fpPathfinder. So my client by then, or the prospect, they're already acclimated, right? Like, oh yeah, I see this. This is great. And then I'll do something like, hey, you know what? I made it a point to recap what I think we should focus on, and I'll click here, and then I'm doing this live with the inquiry, and then this is all from what I've learned from attending boot camps. And let's say I want to focus on the tax frame, for example, right? Because client or prospect expressed to me that they're really concerned about their taxes. So okay, from a tax frame, does it make sense to do like a mega back to a Roth? Okay, well, I have that component over here. And then for a deeper dive, are we even eligible to do that? I go here to the notes. Here's this section here. This is a flow chart. So if I click on this on the report, it's going to bring me the flow chart. Let's do something else just so I can show you an interactive questionnaire. Let's say we also want to talk about long-term care. And then I want to take a deeper dive. When I click on this, right, and this is live, after I'm discussing this with the client, whether or not it makes sense to add long-term care. So we know we have two different deliverables. We have the PDF of the questionnaire that you can customize, because like Jason, I also subscribe to the premium membership. But my clients, they prefer interactive, right? This is why they respond well to my Loom videos. So in this case, long-term care, I'll customize it. They'll complete this. And depending on the communication, I can create a Loom video for this too. Again, 60 seconds or less. And it goes something like this. Hey, you know what? I know we're pressed for time when we sync, but if you can, consider these questions to answer, right? We'll go through the whole, coverage options and so forth. And then once they respond to this will sync to my CRM. So it's already there. It's already layered for me to analyze after. But the idea is my clients are engaged, whether I'm doing it proactively through the live Zoom or Google Meets, or through these exchanges of Looms. So by the time I'm meeting with them, my clients already versed or familiarized with at least how I deliver my financial advice. And it's quote unquote immediate engagement for me. Does that help? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's interesting. Adam, just how both Jason and Don use the software in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
Between with Jason, he uses fpPathfinder as like a lead magnet to start the conversations.
Yeah.
And then drills in using Asset-Map. And Don kind of has it flipped around. He's starting a lot of the conversations using Asset-Map. And then with what he learns there, then he goes deeper and uses fpPathfinder as like getting to the next level.
I agree with that. I mean, I'm sure do you guys agree with that? Is that how you're approaching it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I'll go back to fpPathfinder later, but I think that's a really good point you made there.
Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting because there's a literacy component here, right? You're constantly educating from a professional's perspective using fpPathfinder, right? Those kind of nuances that are technical, but still consumable. People are curious about, they might want to Google, but they're not going to get a really good answer. It's coming from a financial professional like yourself. As you build trust, they're going to start looking to you as that technical resource, as opposed to just getting a billion results in Google or ChatGPT for that matter. Who knows what the result's going to be? I think it's really interesting to see this complement. A couple of people have mentioned that they don't know what Loom is, Don. So what's Loom in 30 seconds?
Yeah, no problem. In fact, here, I'll share with you an old video that I used. This is an example of these snippets I sent to my clients. It'll be something like this. Bear with me. I hate watching myself. Can you see this? This is Loom. Let's assume in our example, Wonder Woman wants to become a millionaire in 10 years or less. Well, we either have better than $500,000 now, earning 7% every year for the next decade. That'll get it done. Let's assume we don't have that. Instead, we are good savers. In this case, Wonder Woman maximizes her 401k, which is $19,500. We're also going to participate in a health savings account, which, for example, we're going to put away $3,000. Now, I work with Googlers, and the average Googler with me saves about $65,000 per year. So the delta there is another $43,000. If we do that, there is about $1 million, 97% funded. Well, what if we tweak this, and instead of earning 7% in our investments, what if we bump that to 8%? Does that 1% move the needle? You bet, 102%. Another way to look at this is a glorified spreadsheet. 10 years out, there's your million, done. I'm done, Hilario. Bye-bye for now. So now I'm not guaranteeing that variable of 7 to 8%, but the idea is that I wanted to think of a way where I can visualize showing growth and using the asset maps, the target maps as my deliverable. I send it to my clients, and then when that resonates with them, they start talking about it with their other Googlers, and then that's how I get my intake of inquiries. Got it. Very interesting. I mean, clearly you have to do a lot of we'll call it qualifying up front, because when your average household has 400,000 of income, and that's from one party possibly. It makes a lot of sense for you to clear. What? Yeah, and I don't know if Jason functions the same way. So for me, because I'm very clear on my niche, by the time they reach out to me, they likely work at Google. They're likely at an L5 or an L6. That's the shop talk. So they'll mirror the stencil that I've created. It's just a different dynamic, a different household. Very cool. All right, awesome. You ready? It's time to move on to our next category of advice engagement. We've already shown some of this stuff, but one of the things that we are seeing consistently is this concept of interactive planning. Now, I see that both of you are doing this from an educational standpoint first, which we think is obviously brilliant, right? The more we can educate and give away our knowledge and promote the fact that we're a credible resource, that will tend to come back to us in interested business parties, as opposed to you picking up the phone and dialing for dollars, right? So I think that it's really kind of critical what you're doing. I hope more advisors recognize the opportunity here to educate on both platforms. You were just showing Target Maps, which is our funding engine. That's our answer to we'll call it speed financial planning, where the whole idea is to do this interactively live with a client, just to educate them so that they can make more informed decisions. Let's talk about early advice engagement. So how do we how do you guys uniquely take people through this process? Don, you just showed us effectively how you walk people through the asset map and ask good questions on a video. Jason, are you doing something similar? How are you doing this?
Yeah, I'll share with you kind of what I'm doing. So I like to have the asset map ready for the first meeting. I may or may not go into it for the first meeting. One of the benefits that I have sometimes is people come through very warm, and so they're really ready to talk about next steps. It's not more of a get to know you, because they'll say, I've been watching you for 2 years on your videos or something like that. So they want to do something that's a little more interactive. But either way, I'm going to have this up behind the scenes, and I really like this. So when someone fills out a discovery form through Asset Map, you're going to get this set up for you, basically. I have some reports ran over here that these reports are not ran, but this is essentially what you're going to see outside of that. And so you have your overall asset map where you can see a picture of the potential client's finances. So you can start to see, okay, what do their assets look like? What sort of debt do they have? Are they married, for example? And you can start to see their income levels, which I really like. And then you also can see, sometimes they'll put in their whole family. So it'll have the members and you can see they have kids. So they'll plug everybody in right there. And then you start to see, okay, net worth. And then you have these signals down here. So these signals are a recently new tool, and I'm on the professional membership. I'm not on the elite yet, Adam. So we have to talk about that after, but I'm on a professional. And so these right here, I may not even show this to the client up front, but these are touch points where I can start to ask those more poignant questions. And my first meeting is always going to be, get to know you. What brought you here? Tell me about your relationship with finances and wealth. And we're going to get into, all the personal side. But we will move over to the engagement side pretty quickly. And after them filling this out, I can see, hey, they don't necessarily maybe have life insurance or long-term disability. At least they didn't figure it out. So when you see red here, it's kind of like a stoplight format. Red means it's bad or stop. Green means they're probably pretty good on that. And then yellow means, hey, maybe to check in that a little bit deeper. So I'll use these. And a cool feature with Asset-Map is you can actually just hit this details tab and run a loss of life target map right here if you want to do that, or any of the target maps you want to pull up. So these are actually pretty cool. And we can just start with the retirement funding one just to get this going, and you could pick whoever you want to run it for.
Oh, you have the loss of life checked off. That's why.
Oh, actually, you know what? So you guys are so efficient. It's already set up for me. I don't have to check that. So let's just do that. And let's select the members. Like if Jason died today, so now we can pull this up and we can look at, hey, what's our present capital deficit? This gives us an ability to have a conversation around, do you have life insurance? Is that something you're thinking about? This particular client is 42. I base it off myself. And if they lost their income today, maybe they would be a little bit short. So you can see here, what they may want, what they may have. And sometimes here, these things aren't clicked off. So you have to click them off. So if they have, $1 million already, like these folks do, then they might already be part of the way funded. So this is something within the tool that I'm doing this live here. So I didn't prepare this ahead of time. You just you need to know how to use the tool. So that may be okay on some of that. But all having this set up here, have a balance sheet, really set up for the client to talk about. These are all deliverables that you can do super quickly, so that when you go back to your home base here, you're going to have a few things you can do with the client really quickly. And so you can click on this, and with the right click, you can generate a PDF. And it's going to pull up a deliverable for the client, and it's going to have their asset map deliverable. So all these things are things that you can talk about, but this tells me, where do I need to go with the client? And for example, in this case, I would say, hey, you have a $1.2 million, whether it's a 401k or IRA at Vanguard. Tell me about that. Is that all pre-tax? Do you have any Roth accounts set up? Do you have any taxable accounts set up? We can lead the conversation wherever the data tells us. And I keep also this one up here, issues to consider as a new client, so that if I want to have this connected, let's say I want to pull this client up because I use something called Zapier, it'll already be in my CRM, so they should come up here. And I'll just link this right here. That's simple. Now, everything I do from a question perspective, I could just start even right here. Before I really knew how to use these tools, I'm pretty, I just do my own thing now. But as I was getting started, I was like, you know what? Let me just ask him, are there any life events that you expect to occur for yourself or your family? It's just, you don't have to be fancy. You could just do this, and then boom, you could pull this up. Hey, getting, married in 2 years or something like that,
Now, Jason, are you filling this out when you're talking to the client, or are you sending this to the client to have that complete?
Okay, so for this particular exercise, I'm talking about a prospect meeting. This is a first meeting. So I will ask these questions initially and fill it all out myself.
Okay.
But I know where you're getting, where you can definitely send this ahead of time to the client, and get a little ahead of me. I was going to show you all the other beautiful tools you have here, but I like to send some of these other ones out here because there's other checklists that you can send out to clients that you might already have, that are already engaging with. So this one here is, what issue should I consider before the end of the year, or maybe at the start of the year? So if you wanted to send that out, you just click on this, pretty simple. This will pull this up. You can do interactive checklist. It'll pull it up right here. And then if you want to send it to one individual, you can do that, pick the client if they're already in the CRM, and then just go ahead and send it out. So it's a really, really cool tool to have this ongoing engagement. And it just depends how you want to use it. And I just try to go step by step, Michael. So, I want to make sure we're not overwhelming folks. But, if it's a first meeting, I'll pull this up next to it to consider as a new client to help me guide the conversation along with this overall asset map I'm using. And, or another thing that I do sometimes is because I'll get, I don't want to call it lazy, but maybe you can call it that. They have this really nice notes section here. Then I can just start taking my notes in here for each of the clients, and those things will come up there as well. And you can take notes section here for the clients as well. So it kind of just depends on what's going on that day, how I'm feeling, how the conversation is going, and what time when we're having that conversation.
Very cool. Well, I think there's an important aspect to this, which is if you were watching this, you notice he literally didn't have to think that much, right? A lot of the stuff that you can show to a client that is conversational in nature is right there. The fact that you're using the fpPathfinder early discovery, know your client type of a checklist is a fantastic way if you want to kind of say, I must hit on these things and start conversations around what's going on in the family. So for those of us that also delegate some of this to maybe our juniors or other staff, or if we're not able to make the meeting, you want to make sure you create some continuity about this. That's really a great way to create systemic, we'll call it process. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that was actually one of my reasons for really getting good at this, because I was in the process of hiring and I said, I know what I'm doing. I know how to use these tools, but how can I create something that's very repeatable and scalable as you bring on new people in your firm? So that's exactly why I like to tie those two together.
That's very cool. Don, anything you want to contribute there or more?
Yeah, I also like the friendliness of asset maps. What I mean by that is it's real user friendly. So going back here to my stencil, I'll show you. So when I'm at a one-on-one, and let's say, let's focus on the cash flow. And keep in mind, let's say I built this stencil using fpPathfinder in terms of one of the stencils. One of the questionnaires I use often is saving strategy for inquiries to save more for the year. All right, so it's budgeting 101, right? So for example, we have, high compensation for Wonder Woman. Here are the taxes, right? Here is what she's saving, the dependent FSA. It's now 5,000. That needs to be higher. We live in SoCal. After tax saving strategy, the pre-tax amount that's adjusted for 2023. And then, we're living at a clip of 12,000 per month. Again, we're in SoCal, pay a premium to live by the water. So here's the idea. The client thinks, hey, yeah, I have 92,000 left over. This is awesome. Where's it going? Don, where's it going? Help me figure out. Okay, no problem. One way I can demonstrate this is I'm just going to show the hidden components I have that I normally break out when I want to take a deeper dive or show out, right? So the idea here is, okay, well, listen, going back now to your compensation, I mentioned before, I understand my niche. So this is aggregated 3 ways: base comp, RSUs, and cash bonus. This cash bonus here, call it 165, the employer can withhold as much as 50% because it's bonus supplemental tax. That is what eats up essentially what the client thinks they have left over. It's a little bit over, in this case, that's my math. It's like a little bit over, I don't know, 86,000 or so. Don't quote me there, but that's the idea. I can show that to them. So then it'll resonate. So now we're still focused on the asset map. And then the reason why I'm demonstrating this is now when I do it this way, I'm not feeling, I feel like a holistic planner, because not yet have I discussed, do we need to invest in Netflix? Are we going to sell Roku? Like stuff like that. That's important. But if I, again, want to stick to the theme of immediate engagement and, analyze it from the big picture of things, it's really not the concern.
Really great point. Michael, any comments? Yeah.
Well, there's one point I want to go back to what Don was showing earlier, maybe 10 minutes ago, about the stencil that he has, because in there he referenced he has a couple of links to fpPathfinder guides, and it was a lot had to do with us seeing what Don was working on that inspired me and Adam to work together on putting together an asset map stencil using fpPathfinder guides. And so, I guess Adam, you're already pulling it up.
I'm gonna just do it. Yeah.
Yeah, but so when Adam and I first saw what Don was working on like a year and a half ago, we're like, we got to be able to do something like this to help everybody. And so what Adam's pulling up right now is is our take on that. And just like what Don was showing, you can see here that in the notes section for each of these different tiles or assets, it's got links to fpPathfinder guides. And so it's exactly what Don's showing. We just turn it in a way where every advisor can leverage one of the stencils that we have. And so we got that started about a year ago. And since then, we've introduced like half a dozen new guides, and we've gone through just in the last 45 days or so and scrubbed it and realized that there were a bunch of other guides that we needed to add. So if you checked for people on here and you checked us out, the stencil out, I don't know, even 2 months ago, there's been a lot of updates that have happened to it since then.
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, and I appreciate you saying that, because one of the things that what is a stencil? Basically, it's a template for those of us that don't want to think. Okay, the idea is that pretty much every household, from a fact-finding standpoint, looks like this. So for those of you that don't use the discovery and offload that to the consumer to do pre-meeting, sometimes a very effective way is to have them come in and say, okay, got it. So you got Jason and Megan and their daughter, Allison. Notice I mashed up all the names. I literally created this 5 seconds before this meeting, applied this stencil and say, okay, let's talk about your income and your other employment and your pensions. And the key is that if it's easy enough, we don't get stuck in the tech of it. So when they say, okay, you know what, I'm making $200,000, I just hit the enter key, and now all of a sudden that is cataloged and saved, right? Do you have a 401k? Yes, I do. Okay, great. What is it? Well, it's a 401k, right? I already told you that. Where is it? It's at Fidelity. Okay. What is it worth? Okay. It's worth 300 grand. Done. Okay. So the key here is now we can ask better questions and deeper questions. So when we have the opportunity to go into them, maybe I want to talk about, the question comes up, should I use a Roth 401k? I'd say, well, let's go to that resource. And so the key is that now we can go deeper without having to remember every single piece. And now I look like a rock star because I'm walking them through this stuff, unlike anybody they've ever seen before, right? I'm not going to send them a booklet or go read this or try to explain it, and then I lost half the room, So the key here is I could send this right to them, and of course we can catalog that in CRM that we've actually sent that. So it becomes really powerful for what we've all talked about is scaling advice engagement. That is replicating it again and again and again. That's what scaling is all about. But yet still creating a highly personalized experience that feels very intimate. And that's really what I think you both achieved, is you've created a bit of a machine around a process that still feels very much aligned with help me get educated and empowered to take action going forward.
Yeah.
So I'll stop.
Okay. I want to just segue over because we're getting some questions over here. And Adam, maybe you and all of you guys could kind of weigh in. How does Asset-Map fit in with the traditional financial planning tools? When do you use anything else besides Asset-Map? And if not, what's the other tools that you're using, and when do you go down to that level of using a traditional financial planning tool?
You want to go first, Don?
Sure, no problem. I use eMoney for the more robust plan for Monte Carlo and all those other things. And here's the thing. I've never had a client or a new prospect say, Don, thank you. You ran a really wonderful Monte Carlo analysis. How do I, right? Or I really like the Morningstar analysis. The standard deviation there was just off the charts, right? The Asset-Map and the fpPathfinder, that's the core. So, I still have all those other bells and whistles. I'm happy to share my tech stack, but again, if I just almost force the issue where I start every meeting with both Asset-Map right in front of them, along with the fpPathfinder, then every meeting my clients are immediately immersed in my process. If they don't like it, then they're not right for me. So I stick to that discipline.
Do me a favor, actually, what is your tech stack? Just so people know, because I know several people have asked for it. What is your, start with CRM and go to it.
CRM is Redtail, eMoney is my account aggregation, Morningstar analysis, and then Calendly. I think that's it. Oh, and Black Diamond performance reporting. But again, like 80%, if not more, it's all Asset-Maps and fpPathfinder. Oh, here's one thing to add. I've actually tested this in terms of efficiency. So when I have my reviews coming up, I can look at a previous asset map with my notes and I'll be immediately familiar with it within like 5 minutes. I can't do that with a financial plan from, dare I say, eMoney or what have you. I'm scouring through the pages.
Right.
Yes, there's no way for me to find it. So from an efficiency standpoint, I stick with the page plan. My notes are intended for me to immediately get immersed, and then I can serve.
That's great. Jason, how about you?
I have to admit, I'm a recovering tech freak addict. So I use a lot of tech. I really enjoy, using tech for different things. So I'm trying to narrow these things down. But so the way I use Asset-Map, definitely the first place we're going to stop, whether it's the first or second meeting. I really use it like a visual CRM. I really like it to keep everything organized, keep everything visual. And my assistant's job every single week is to always update from any other tools, everything to the Asset-Map, because that's going to be the primary communication tool that I'm using with the client. But for deeper analysis or for things that are more specific, I will use tools like Right Capital. I don't use eMoney, but Right Capital has been a wonderful tool. And I use Income Laboratory for clients that are in retirement. Really enjoy that tool for retirement income planning and for clients that are in retirement. And then I also use Elements for accumulators. So that's a newer tool. I'm working on getting some people onto that. But the advice engagement is going to mostly stick within Asset-Map as a primary, and then I'll jump to another tool for anything deeper than that. And Adam, you kind of said it in a way that really stuck with me in your training. It's like Asset-Map is like the X-ray and the blood test, right? You're going to come into a doctor. The first thing you're going to do is an X-ray and a blood test and kind of see where you're sitting at. They're not going to go directly to an MRI. But if we need to do the MRI, that's the eMoney or the Right Capital, and we'll go deeper into that. So it's going to depend on the clients, and I will use the appropriate tool, based on that particular client from there. So I think that answers the tech stack question. There's a couple of things you guys were touching on that I think there's two things that I think would be useful adds to show efficiency. One thing you had talked about, Adam, but I'll leave it at that for now until you want to jump over to that.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have about 20 some questions here, which I know you've asked. So thank you for those of you that have I'm trying to compress them so we can answer them in the next 7 minutes. There's a question about fees, and the question is about mostly transparency of fees or what are you charging or how are you charging? Are they different for the two models? If anybody wants to share.
I get paid classic AUM, 1% for $1 million, a little bit more if it's under $1 million. If they don't have AUM, then I do financial planning only, and that fee is $6,750.
Thank you. Is that transparent on your website, or do you wait until the engagement?
I think it's on my agreements. I don't think it's on my website, but I wait for the engagement and I say it apologetically. Fee is the fee.
Got it. Jason, any comments?
Yeah, for me, it's all on my website. So if you look under fees, it's all right there. Have it all laid out. I offer project plans. I like to do the project plan first to see where people are at, because that really allows me to see if I can really provide that ongoing value to where that ongoing AUM fee is like a drop in the bucket compared to the value that I can provide. So I'll generally charge about $4,000 to $6,000 for an upfront planning process where we lay everything out with them, and they'll have everything they need if they really want to go do things themselves. If they're a good fit, then I'll offer them to become an ongoing client. And so it was about 40% conversion rate to ongoing clients with those from those flat fee plans. And this is where, Don is really dialed in on his particular niche. I focus on retirement, but I focus more on the personality, and I focus more on people that need that tax planning ongoing, because there's just so much value there that if I can create $1 million in value, it just makes perfect sense for them to come over. And then I also offer straight fee, mostly for accumulators, if they want to pay for ongoing planning through like an annual fee build, monthly, quarterly, however we do it like that. So kind of a barbell approach, because, I really don't want to be in that place where everybody starts passing away and I have no one to backfill. Those are the two groups I work with. Cool.
Should I keep going on these questions, Mike?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Yeah. You see one that jumps out at you?
There's a question about integrations, deeper integrations. How do we work with some of the other financial planning tools? I think you're already hearing it, is that despite the fact that, I'll speak for Asset-Map. We integrate right now with Money Guide. We're always trying to get in conversations with the others. There are several other bridges actually Precise FP enables an integration bridge between Asset-Map and all the other planning tools because they integrate with both eMoney, Money Guide, and now Right Capital. So if you do really want to move data around, I will tell you the irony behind it. We had in our firm 1,600 clients. 10 of them were on eMoney. Nobody complained about the fact that we had to integrate the data, and the reason was because when it was so easy just to create a deliverable for the client, we actually found it was important for us as humans to look and verify the accounts. And so before it got entered in the Asset-Map, some human had to look at this because unfortunately these integrations break. And I'm not showing up to a meeting with all of a sudden it's off 100 grand because they took out money I didn't even know about. I look like a fool. So there is a validation component that I think we tend to rely way too much on the tech integrations, that I'm saying, who's checking to make sure I'm not going to have egg on my face. So there's that. I think for fpPathfinder, we're thinking about ways that we can do more of this. We do have a redirect on discovery. Someone asked about how long it takes. It takes about 15 minutes for the client to do discovery on their phone to build an Asset-Map. Remember, it's rudimentary. They don't ask themselves the same questions you would. So you typically find when they build an Asset-Map, they aggregate it, as Jason did, 1 million into 401ks, and you find it's in 6 different accounts, right? Which is obvious on an Asset-Map. It's clutter that needs to be fixed. What you can do, though, is you can redirect at the completion of discovery to another link, like a calendar scheduling link or an fpPathfinder generic questionnaire. So just so you all know, I think a lot of you don't know that, you can actually force them to redirect to your webpage or to a risk profile, or maybe even the fpPathfinder kind of pre-questionnaire, which I think is really effective for collecting data at the same time when people are in mode.
Adam, how do people access the fpPathfinder stencil?
Yeah, it's a good question. They got to go to there's a library now of actual stencils that other advisors have contributed. So you go to our support center, the little chat bubble on the right, and just look up stencil library, and you'll see you just request the libraries you want. You want Merck executives or doctors or lawyers or business partners. The fpPathfinder is there. And once you use the fpPathfinder stencil, you can modify it and change it your own and rename it Wonder Woman if you want, right? Yeah. So you can create multiple stencils that have all of those links. They won't break. So there's some really cool ways to create, I think, pretty engaging stuff. Yep. All right.
We just had 2 new checklists come out in the last week on rental properties, and our prep call last week, Jason is saying, where was it in the stencil, and it's now added in there. So we were trying to keep that up to date going forward for everybody.
Awesome. I'm looking for any other questions that we have here. Any last minute comments from everybody, or anybody want to say anything?
I have a thought. I know that I enjoy creating videos, and I also enjoy working with the people I work with, like the niche. And Jason said something that resonated with me. They just happen to be Googlers predominantly, and they work in big tech, but their personalities mirror my own. So if I talk about the Knicks, they'll appreciate it, right? So the point I'm getting at is, I'm sure Jason and I are happy to share our marketing strategies, but I think the reason why it works for me and for Jason respectively is because we found a way where we can take 2 things, right? Imagine a Venn diagram, right? We enjoy the people we work with, the niche. I know Jason mentioned he works with retirees, and I enjoy creating those Loom videos. So somewhere in the middle, that's how I'm able to do this proactive effort. Because, for example, if you don't like doing videos, then don't do the Looms. For me, I don't like going on LinkedIn. I don't want to create a Facebook page. So that's why I'm very mindful of what are my strengths and weaknesses are, so I can implement it and give it a sincere effort.
Very cool.
That's a really good point. And I would really encourage anybody to just focus on what they're good at, but also use these tools, or use these tools in a way that you can create the content out of the tools. Because I saw someone ask a question, well, how do you come up with new things every week? I'll go through the fpPathfinder checklist. I'll use a case study that I have from somewhere else. I'll look at a question someone asked on my Facebook page or group. I'll look at something that came in. I'll look at the news. There's just unlimited topics if you really believe there's unlimited topics. But if you're a writer, then write. If you like to do audio, then do audio. When I first started in this industry, I saw that 98% of advisors hated to do video. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do a video because no one else wants to do it. And the benefit with video is people get to know you. Like when you come onto a first call, they feel like they know you, they already like you and trust you. And that's something that is super valuable. And then that content can be taken and repurposed in so many different ways, through email, through short clips, even taking the transcript of it and to make your blog. And so I like the engagement with people live because that's really worked for me. And if you look at my first 50 videos, they were terrible. About 50 or so, I got okay. And now they're doing a lot better, but they're still not perfect, by the way. So it's just about starting and finding things to do.
Very cool. We have to wrap it up, guys. I've been given the hook. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time and your attention to this stuff. It's really great that you're willing to share. Michael, appreciate everything you're doing at fpPathfinder. Of course, if anybody needs any more information, you know how to Google us. You can find us.
Yep.
So please stay connected. And of course, don't forget to share. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.